Hey guys, it's Brad. Today I wanted to talk about a low point for the practice. Not currently, but in the past. And I think maybe some of you guys will get some benefit out of hearing my story about this. For those of you guys who don't know, I started my own practice. I'm now about 5.5 to 6 years in, and I've learned a lot of lessons along the way. Don't worry, this story has a happy ending, but I also want to talk about some low points in the past of my business and hopefully some things that you can learn from it so you don't have to go through what I went through. All right, well, let's go way back. When I was thinking about starting my practice, I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was working as a hospitalist. I didn't hate my job. I enjoyed what I did for a living. I just hated the corporate aspect of it. I worked for a company called HCA. I was subcontracted there with an independent practice. And although the independent practice was a bunch of lovely docs that I worked with, still worked for HCA. Meeting after meeting about how I needed to improve throughput. I needed to do better. Finally, one day, I think I had my breaking point with the group where I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm the top performer in terms of RVU production for this group, but yet I'm still having meetings about how I need to do more, and they were offering $500 bonuses if I wake up an hour earlier to get there to discharge people earlier. It was a joke. So at that point in time, I felt lost about my future because I was watching my older brother. He formed a business and was just killing it financially. My younger brother doing the same thing, have more free time, have more money, have less stress than I do. And I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life here? So with that, I'll never forget, I sat next to a general surgeon and he asked me, he said, what are you gonna do as you get older? There's a reason you don't see old hospitalists. Are you gonna do this forever? And I said, it's a good question. I was thinking about starting my own business. I was thinking of going into primary care. I actually interviewed with some of the big guys in town. So my friend sat next to me and he said, there's a reason you don't see old hospitalists. What's your plan one day? And I said, that's a good question you ask. And I was actually thinking of starting my own private practice. I interviewed with the big guys in town. They're lovely, their doctors are lovely, but I knew the reputation, right? You're gonna see 30 patients a day, get 5 minutes face-to-face, and you're back in that grind. So he told me, he said, why don't you sublease for me? I'm never in my office because I'm in the operating room, but I gotta have an office for follow-ups. And then you need an office and see how it goes. And that's how my business started. I subleased from him. We had a month-to-month contract and it was incredible. Those of you guys that follow my vlog may know, was the low point when he had an employee that didn't show up because the cat got stuck underneath the shed of my first employee and she didn't show up for like 3.5 hours. Or maybe that time, one of my MAs told one of my patients that she was a recovering heroin addict right before she was giving her flu shot. And I had no idea. All of her references checked out, her background checked out, and it was just crazy that happened. The stressful point in my career so far in running a business was basically self-inflicted. It was the lack of balance that I had in my life. Now, some of this was pandemic influenced where I had, let's say, 100 patients a week on my schedule. When the city shut down, I went from 100 a week to that next week I saw 5 patients total. And then the PPP loan came out. Oh, guess what? You can't really get the PPP loan unless you've had 2 years of tax returns. I don't get any PPP where other people were getting millions of dollars in it. There was definitely stress there. But I think that if I could go back and do it all over again, I think I would have taken better care of myself mentally while I was growing the practice because I had so much stress about looking at the schedule. Oh my God, we only have 20 people on the schedule. This is such a failure. And it would just get into this dramatic zone of just, now like it's almost like rolling your eyes thinking about it of like, oh my God, calm down. You're just building your practice. You're only 3 months in. But I think almost everyone goes through it. I know a lot of the people I consult with also go through something similar, but I feel like I took it to an extreme. I stopped working out. I started eating unhealthily. And then it got to a point where instead of drinking, 1 glass of wine with dinner just because I enjoy the taste, on Friday and Saturday I was drinking 2 glasses of wine to chill out. I never got into alcohol abuse problems, but looking back, I used to drink a glass of wine to enjoy the taste of the wine or scotch. And it turned into, well, I'm going to have 2 glasses on a Friday night to chill out for the week. And that's fine if it's like a one-time thing. I'm not going to judge. But it became like a every Friday and Saturday night to decompress from the week ahead. And that's not good. That should have been a sign. I should have looked in and said, look, you haven't hit the gym, you're drinking 2 glasses of wine to chill out. What the hell are you doing? I know that when I look back, the anxiety of all that, I was spinning my wheels and going nowhere. I would go to the competitor's website and be like, well, how many days out are they booked in the future? And I would just waste my time doing this stupid stuff. Because in my mind, I didn't have the money to advertise. In my mind, I didn't have the money to do anything else to help my practice grow besides be relentless about the patient experience and give wonderful patient care. But if I could do it all over again, I would definitely say, you know what, it's been a while since you marketed to those patients. You know what, you've never sent your current patients an email flyer about any updates with your practice. Why don't I just start acting like a business person and doing things smarter than getting into the anxiety loop of which I got into? And a lot of things suffered. I put on 15, 20 pounds. Again, like I said, I wasn't working out. And the one thing that I'll give my partner a lot of credit for, my wife, she's the therapist. She said, you know, why don't you go to therapy to try to go back from good to great? I don't think you have a problem. She was like, but you're clearly not happy with where you're at. And why don't you go to therapy to go from good to great? And that's exactly what I did. I started going to therapy, then I started working out more, started focusing on better sleep patterns. I started focusing on better boundaries in my life. Even with this own vlog, when things kind of got out of control and I got a little bit busy, I said, you know what, instead of keeping up with the weekly routine, I'm just gonna put that on the back burner and I'm gonna go chill in my pool or just hang out for a little while for my own mental health. I think for anyone watching this, if you or your partner is running on that wheel, feeling like you're making no progress, why am I up till midnight? Why am I up till 1 a.m. completing charts and doing X, Y, and Z with the business and we're not making progress? Well, one, I'm happy to consult with you and I do consult with quite a few of you guys. But two, I also think that don't do like I did. Take a high level, maybe get a therapist, maybe break the cycle. It's not healthy looking at your competitors. It's not healthy to be up till 1 a.m. charting every day because you feel like you had to do other business aspect of things. I guarantee you the business meetings that I had way back then that I took 2 or 3 hours to do to prep, like what am I going to talk about, my bullet points and everything else like that, that could have been an email. That could have been a Teams message in 5 minutes. But the anxiety drew me to review that over and over again and hyper focus on these things. I also feel like at the lowest point, I was my own worst critic. I remember looking at my own website at one point in time, telling my wife, man, I wouldn't even go to this office. This website's just such a piece of crap. And the weird part is that I was in my own head. The anxiety was getting to me because other patients would come in and tell me, they'd be like, wow, your website's great. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I built it myself. And in my mind, I was kind of kicking myself. I was getting down on things, probably even borderline depression at that point in time. So I was just like, yeah, whatever. I built it myself. The website kind of sucks. That was the lowest point in the entrepreneurial journey, is the fear of the unknown, wanting it to be hyper successful, wanting it to be faster than the growth that we already had. But how much faster can I get without private equity involvement? Like I've said before, we're at like 20,000 patients, 5.5, 6 years in. That's pretty damn good growth, 3 locations and 20,000 patients. I spent so many sleepless nights. I was running on the wheel. I thought I had to be at 1 in the morning emailing people, emailing stupid things. The HOA for the building about some voting on something stupid that needed to be done about putting up a no parking sign or something like that. I felt like I was so busy during the day I couldn't get till 1 in the morning. Yeah, I was only kidding myself. You know, and I think a lot of you guys out there, if you're running on the wheel like this and you have no balance in your life, I would encourage you to get out of it sooner than I got out of it. Hit the gym, eat healthy. It's okay to set some boundaries and say, you know what, not today. I'm going to take Friday off. I'm going to go hang out with my kids. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to do something harmless fun. At the lowest point, I remember me feeling so bad about everything, about my website, the growth, just the direction things were going, that I remember telling my therapist at the time that I was trying to go to good to great. I said, you know, maybe I should just sell all this crap and maybe I should just go work for one of the big competitors so I don't have to deal with this. And I'll never forget, she basically said, you know, I haven't known you that long, maybe 6 months. And she goes, I get the feeling that is absolutely not you talking. That is the anxiety talking. And then she told me, she goes, why don't you hit the gym every day for the next week? And why don't you then tell me how you feel? And it was funny because I hit the gym every day for the next week, came back to her and I said, yeah, I feel like I was being ridiculous. I love what I do. I love building things. I love my business. I love the growth that we've had so far. I was just stuck in such a vicious cycle. And I was never on the edge of hurting myself or anything like that. But I'm just throwing this out there because maybe it'll help a couple of you guys to say like, you know what? He's been through it too. He's been through those points where he also stared at his schedule, looking at it more than half empty and say, what the hell am I doing wrong? When the reality was that I wasn't marketing. I didn't even have my name on the frickin' door. My website had zero SEO. I was doing no self-promotion, had no Instagram, had no Twitter or X handle. I had nothing set up, but I was just sitting there with a woe me kind of attitude of, well, I just opened up my schedule. Why isn't it full? And then getting sad about that. I think the best thing that I've done in my life, well, the best thing I've done is have kids. The next best things that I've done in my life is I feel like I have two wonderful partners in my life. I have my wife, who is amazing and along the ride with me all the way. And I also have a business partner who I feel like we have a very yin and yang relationship where my strengths are her weaknesses and vice versa. And I feel like when either of us get a little bit kind of down and caught up in this, we tend to pull each other out. And the way that we pull each other out is by supporting each other unconditionally and say, I think you might need a day off. Why don't I just tell them to block your schedule, go hang out, go to the beach, go hang out with the kids. And I want you back here refreshed, ready to go and kick some butt. Everyone goes through it. Everyone starts from scratch, unless you have a ton of money, I guess, and you could throw a lot of money into it. And I feel like it's a rite of passage everyone has to go through. But hopefully, some of you guys will benefit from this and saying, well, Brad with Investing Doc, he went through the same thing too. I would push you to say, when's the last time you hit the gym? When's the last time you took care of yourself? When's the last time you took a self-care day to go hang out just by yourself or with your family or whatever recharges your battery? Nothing wrong with working hard. I've spent a lot of hours working on this practice. Oh my God, I spent so many hours building the website and SEO and all this other stuff. And now we're to a point where I can pay other people to do those things. And that's wonderful. But while I was in it, I didn't have a marathon mentality, and I definitely burned the candle at both ends and almost burnt myself out. So I think that another thing is that I love consulting with a lot of you guys, but when I consult with you guys, and if you come to me extremely burned out in your profession, usually the first thing I ask you is like, being a full-time doctor and running a business is not really a recipe for less burnout, unless there's a lot of change in your behavior on how you're going to put up boundaries. How are you going to have some me time in there? How are you going to structure that? Because if you think that going from burnt out as a hospitalist like I was to starting up your own practice, worrying about creating your website, the business, the SEO, marketing, patient satisfaction, collecting money, billing, if you think that is going to make your workload a lot less, I don't know, I think you're a little in denial there. I think you got to get to the root cause of the burnout. Is it boundaries? Maybe your previous employer does have totally unrealistic expectations for workload and work ethics for you. If there's a valid reason for the burnout, fine. But if it's not, and let's say like I was a hospitalist, my burnout was basically just, I wasn't necessarily overworked. Maybe I was working some late hours. It wasn't that bad. I think it spiraled into, one, I wanted to own my own business and I felt not in control of my life. That was definitely contributing to my burnout. And then two, I think I just got frustrated that I kept having so many managers to answer to that I was like, if I'm going to do this and work this hard, why not answer to myself? That's my burnout. I want to just do things for myself and I love building things. This vlog isn't necessarily anything directly about how to double your business in 30 days, but your mental health in running, starting up, and growing your practice is extremely, extremely important. And if I could go back in time, I would have definitely made it a better priority to maybe follow up with a therapist, to get a therapist sooner, to go from good to great, to hit the gym more, to eat healthier and not turn to a bunch of candies whenever I was feeling stressed out. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Remember, if you're healthy and happy, your practice is probably going to be healthy and happy. All right, you guys. See y'all next time. Life is good. Hope y'all is doing well too.